Hello there, Keith King here from the website ancientsymbolist.com. Today I would like to explain the relevance of the number 555 and its relationship to discovering the light and masonry. On my first evening in my Masonic lodge, the first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was the binary code number for the number 5. It was placed on the altar. It was the number 101. As I started to delve into its relevance, I saw it again on the opening scene in The Matrix. As Keanu Reeves slightly opens the door to his apartment, the number 101 appears. But more than that, as the ones and zeros appear to start the matrix, they quickly show the number 555, both on the horizontal line and also on the vertical line. I started to become more inquisitive about the number 555 when I saw it placed on the Masonic third degree tracing board, which was created by the Freemason John Harris. The Washington Obelisk was created in honour of the Freemason George Washington. It is 555.5 feet and 5 inches high, and when converted into inches, this is 6,660 inches. This is the reverse of when King Solomon asked the 12 tribes of Israel to appear in Jerusalem on the Passover day, and between them donate 666 talents of gold to the temple. If we divide the 12 tribes into 666, each tribe had to produce 55.5 talents of gold. Is it any coincidence when we count the numbers on the 2 tablets that make up the 10 Commandments that Moses appeared to bring down from the mountain? We arrive at the number 15 from the first tablet, or 5 plus 5 plus 5. And then when we add the numbers on the second tablet together, and along with the first tablet, we get the number 55. When Moses was explaining the significance of each of the commandments, what he was really conveying was his knowledge of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which we can assume he had spent his whole life studying whilst being raised in the temples of Egypt. Moses was aware of the verses associated with chapter 125 of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which were similar in content to the 10 Commandments. Chapter 125 is really just 5 times 5 times 5. This was what is called esoteric knowledge, and because the Israelites were not yet aware of how to decipher this knowledge, they asked Moses to cover up his face and his head with a veil. As there appeared to radiate out of Moses' head 2 beams of light. Later, these 2 beams of light would be replaced by 2 horns, and then the horns would represent the symbol for secrets, along with the veil. The Freemasons are searching for knowledge, and they know they can find it within the light, for light is knowledge. As the Masons owned and built their churches, they would show Jesus bringing the light into the building. The Romans who put Jesus on the cross were fully aware of this esoteric number for light, 555. So in turn, they called the word for light lux. Each of the Roman letters had a value. L represents 50. There was no U, so the letter V was substituted. The letter V represents the number 5. The letter X is just 2 5s, or 2 V's with one upside down. The word lux creates the number 555.5. And now to explain the significance of the number 555.5. On my first night in my lodge, I was shown a tracing board with many illustrations placed upon it, but my original focus was on a ladder that reached up to a set of stars. There was a key upon this ladder. During the explanation of the relevance of this board, I was told that the Egyptian Magi had handed down their knowledge to mankind through symbols. I later discovered that the Freemasons were the custodians of those symbols. How can I confirm this? Well, in Sydney, where I live, there is a cathedral called St. Andrew's. As everyone knows, St. Andrew is the patron saint of Scotland. One of the first lodges to be created in the 1700s in Sydney was called St. Andrew's. Within this cathedral is a statue of Moses with 2 horns upon his head, and there is a spectacular set of windows showing the 3 wise magi. These are those 4 mosaic windows. They depict the 3 wise magi who set off to present their gifts to the baby Jesus. In the first window, the 3 magi are studying the heavens. One of the magi is holding an astroglobe. Inside this astroglobe is a magnetic lodestone, which always points to north. Upon the astroglobe are the 12 signs of the star constellations. These 12 star constellations appear to have shown the Magi the way ahead to their ultimate destination. These star constellation symbols are placed at the top of one of the 2 pillars of Freemasonry. The star constellation symbols are shown on this hermetic tracing board along with the sun, the moon, and the planet symbols. So what were the Magi famous for? The Magi studied the precession of the equinox. The precession of the equinox equates to the Earth travelling in a westward direction around the sun and passing through each set of star constellations until it returns to its original point. The night sky and the star constellations have been placed into a circle which contains 360 degrees. That 360-degree circle has been divided into 12 separate sections, each 30 degrees. As the Earth moves through each star constellation, it has been estimated that the Earth moves 1 degree every 72 years. The number 72 is just 6 times 6 times 2. After it has travelled the full 30 degrees through the whole individual star constellation, it has taken 72 times 30 years. This equates to 2,160 years. 216 is obtained by multiplying 6 times 6 times 6. Remember that King Solomon knew the relevance of this number when he told the Israelites to bring to the temple 666 talents of gold. 666 is also referred to as the number of man, as the time taken by the Earth to travel through each star constellation takes approximately 2,160 years. The time to travel through the whole 12 constellations takes 12 times 2,160 years, which is 25,920 years. This knowledge of the 12 star constellations was also known by the priests of Israel, who had spent centuries within Egypt. During the exodus from Egypt, each tribe was assigned to a zodiac sign. Judah, who was looked upon as the leader, became associated with the sign Leo and the lion. The high priest would wear a breastplate with 12 precious stones attached to it. Each one is associated with the 12 tribes and the 12 star constellations. One of the first descriptions of the star constellations was inscribed upon the wall of the temple at Dendera in Egypt. This early indication of the 12 star constellations would later become known as the 12 zodiac signs. I'm going to take us now to the other side of the world, to Mexico, where the Mayans created a stone calendar called the Stone of the Sun. Upon this stone, 5 time epochs have been created. Each epoch is 5,125 years, or 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. When the Mayans multiplied the 5 epochs of 5,125 years, they arrived at the number 25,625 years. What's the relevance of this number, 25,625 years? This was what the Mayans had calculated to be the time that the Earth took to traverse around all 12 star constellations. How accurate were the Mayans in their forecast? Today, our scientists tell us that the Earth moves 1 degree around the star constellations every 72 years. Therefore, as each of the star constellations are 30 degrees, 30 times 72 is 2,160. This is the time frame for each zodiac sign. Today, we are said to be in the sign of Pisces and soon to be heading into the sign of Aquarius. With this knowledge, we could multiply the 12 30-degree signs by 2,160 years, which gives us a total of 25,920 years. This was just 1% discrepancy between what the Mayans and the Egyptians knew over 1,000 years ago. Today, we are waiting to move from the zodiac sign of Pisces into the sign of Aquarius. No one is quite sure exactly when this will occur. The Mayans, however, predicted the event to happen on the 21st of December 2012. On that day, their solar disk predicted that one era would come to an end and another would start. This was taken out of context by the Western world, who claimed that the Mayans thought that the end of the world was about to happen. It was like labelling a whole civilization as deluded. So how relevant was this knowledge of the time span of the star constellations? Here on the wall, opposite the Grand Master of the Knight Templars, of Malta's palace is the ancient mystic tie, also known as the analema. Around this symbol for infinity, there is placed the 12 zodiac signs. These signs are allotted alongside the month of the year they represent. Each sign was allotted to each of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the lion for the tribe of Judah, King Solomon's tribe. The Grand Lodge of England placed the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac upon their emblem. These 4 star constellations would then be associated with the 4 gospel writers: Mark for Leo the lion, Matthew for Aquarius the man, Luke for Taurus the bull, and the eagle for John and the Scorpio. Nearly all of the churches would then be named after each of these gospel writers, and their zodiac sign would be incorporated somewhere within the church. Jesus would be placed inside the Vesica Pisces, holding the Egyptian orb, the symbol for the Ankh and Venus, and the 4 gospel writers and their zodiac signs would be placed on show around him. But the best illustration I could give is on Abercrombie Street in Sydney, where 4 stone carvings are beautifully illustrated to show the signs of the zodiac. We may wonder if this sacred number 555 is known by various churches. Well, in 1884, representatives from all over the world came together to find the starting place for time. They chose the Royal Observatory in Greenwich. We may ask why. Well, according to Bruce Cathy in his book Bridge to Infinity, Greenwich is 555.555 minutes of arc from the Vatican in Rome. Each minute of arc is 1 nautical mile. It is no coincidence that the distance from Jerusalem to Mecca, as the crow flies, is 666 nautical miles. Why is the number 21,600 so important? It is 60 times 60 times 6, or 360 degrees times 60 minutes. This is the number of nautical miles around the equator, and as the Earth is mainly covered by water, it was the numbering system used by sea captains. When Dan Brown watched his movie The Da Vinci Code, he may have been aware that the concluding scenes of the film ended in a small chapel in Scotland. It was not far from where the Masons built their temple in Edinburgh. It was called Rose Line Chapel. It is 55.5 degrees north of the equator, and it is placed there for a specific reason. The word rose represents the 5-pointed star that is drawn in the shape of the rose by Venus as it dances across the night sky over the course of 8 Earth years. However, it takes 13 of Venus's years to draw the rose. 8 and 13 are both Fibonacci code numbers, along with the total amount of numbers on the 10 Commandments, 55. The Fibonacci code can only be arranged by drawing squares that get progressively larger. This is why Freemasons meet on the level and part on the square, with the symbol for the golden ratio, the letter G or spiral, placed directly above the 5-pointed star in the centre of the mosaic pavement. It confirms that Masonry is the oldest of the mystery schools. On the third degree tracing board, the number 5 is shown 3 times. In the Masonic Lodge, 5 people knock 3 times to represent what degree they are working in. J.K. Rowling may have learnt about this mystery school after she watched the Masonic film The Man Who Would Be King.
The Man Who Would Be King, for those who don't know, is a story with Sean Connery and Michael Caine in it, and it's from an old Rudyard Kipling story. And the Masonic symbol is very important in that movie. And it was literally 20 years later that I looked at the sign of the Deathly Hallows and realised how similar they were.
As Harry is escorted by 5 wizards before the leader, Mad Eye, knocks 3 times with his staff. This was to open the meeting place where the secret society, based in London, have their headquarters.
So what is this place? Its headquarters?
The Order of the Phoenix. It's a secret society. Dumbledore formed it back when they first fought you-know-who.
The secret society that Harry joins is based upon the phoenix bird that sits upon St. Paul's Cathedral. I have been asked at various Masonic temples what started me on this quest to discover the number 555. This all started when a Mason explained that there was an obelisk in Sydney, in Hyde Park, built by the Grand Master of the Freemasons of New South Wales. I became inquisitive to learn more about this obelisk, so I visited it on numerous occasions throughout the year. On one of these days, which was the 21st of September, as I was watching the sun go down in the western sky, I noticed that the sun lined up with 2 circles placed in the pyramid on top of the obelisk. The sun then cast a shadow along the path leading to a fountain called by the City of Sydney Council the Fountain of Life. The sun appeared to drink from the Fountain of Life and then ascend up the steps and into the doorway of Sydney Grammar School, also known as the College of Liberal Arts and Studies, where they taught the 7 liberal subjects talked about in a Masonic lodge: geometry, logic, mathematics, rhetoric, grammar, music, and astronomy. So what time did the sun come down to drink from the fountain? The original time for the sun to come down to drink and for the teachers of the school to set their timepieces in the year 1857 was 5:55 p.m. It occurred on the spring equinox, the 21st of September. Today, Sydney has adopted daylight saving time, and the event now happens 1 hour earlier at 4:55 p.m. The obelisk was built by the Grand Master of the New South Wales Freemasons. His name was George Thornton. He built the obelisk in 1857. There were 6 smaller obelisks placed around the taller obelisk. These marked the longest and shortest days of the year. These 6 obelisks have since been removed to widen the road. Now, the 6 smaller obelisks are placed in various locations in Sydney, but the Freemasons of Sydney left more clues on how to discover this once-a-year event that happens at the Fountain of Life. In their town square, where the first obelisk was erected to indicate the distance to important towns in New South Wales, they placed another important fountain. This fountain was given the Masonic name, the Pavement. Upon this fountain they inscribed a verse from the Bible. Whoever drinks of this water shall thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give to him shall never thirst. Jesus said these words to a Sumerian woman as she gave him water from the well of Jacob, who was the grandson of Abraham. The placing of these wells in the ancient world was very important to the inhabitants of the Middle East. The most important well was the well of Abraham in Beersheba. A Masonic friend of mine has checked the position of the well of Abraham in Beersheba, and with the aid of Google Earth has determined that the amount of degrees at midday on the longest day of the year until midday on the shortest day of the year is 55.5 degrees. The Masons, it seems, have tied in the number 555 with finding the fountain of life and never thirsting again. The Masons would highlight this event within their churches by showing Jesus being cared for by the Sumerian woman. This well of Abraham at Beersheba became the battleground for one of the turning points in World War I. In 1917, the Australian Light Horse Regiment captured Beersheba from the Turkish army. This battle to secure the water from the well changed the course of the war in the Middle East. I hope you have enjoyed learning some more about the relevance of the number 555 and have subscribed to my website